move more deliberately, slowly in this way, it gives us this huge opportunity to really listen in, to come and meet ourselves where we are in this moment. For a practice to be more embodied. So just enjoying that transition from being on the side body to the back. And just feeling out for the bolster there with one foot then the other. And just rolling that in. So I can feel that bolster now resting quite nicely between the back of my thighs and backs of the ankles. It's quite a nice sensation actually to really snuggle that in quite deeply. Wonderful. So how are you feeling through the neck? You can always give a little stroke up here through the back of the neck, really letting the weight of your head surrender into your hands, your gently clasped hands, and just hanging out here. Just levitating off the ground a little, and then from there I'm letting my elbows drop. And feeling my elbows settling onto the floor. Wonderful. So here as I receive the breath in, again I might just envisage down into the ribcage, getting that sense now of expansion through those front side ribs. As I receive the breath in, exhaling, gently settling back, a little closer to the spine. Okay, I'm going to let my head now rest there. So again, slip in a folded blanket and a low cushion. If you tend to have a lifting of the chin, right? So we want to avoid being here, but also over pulling the chin to stomach. You should feel quite nice and free through your neck. Just reaching out to feel that bolster, and then I'm going to plant deeply through my feet, so I can just let the tailbone float up, off the ground. Oh, so lovely to let the tailbone lead the way and get a sense of my spine just hanging away from that tailbone. This in itself, it's a lovely place to hang out. So I keep sinking through the feet as the tailbone travels a little higher possibly. Okay, and then, before I go a step further, you might just want to let that front body melt towards the back and just lowering the vertebrae one by one. So that lovely spread across the lower back. And again, just touching, reaching out for this bolster, and I'm going to plant through the feet and just begin to roll my bolster in, rolling that in, just finding that nice sense of support, for the back of the pelvis, the whole sacral area. Again, there's a sense now that I'm still just allowing the spine to fall away from the tailbone. At the end aim for this is to then feel quite happy to let one leg then the other float off the ground. And this in itself is quite delicious. It's nice and relaxed, remembering these wonderful folds we have in the middle of our arms and legs as we just surrender to that gentle pull through the back of those resting points. Where my body meets the earth, and just finding that little point of balance through that sacral bone. That as I breathe, there is naturally movement, that nothing is rigid or held. Yes, if you wish, You might begin just to reach up, up, up through the toes. And with that next out breath, just yawning the heels away. And then just relax, find that fold again. You could be here for quite a while. This in itself could be your practice, to have a nice variation on legs at the wall, to have the pelvis a little elevated. So, those of you who are in the postnatal period, really nice to have a little height under the pelvis and have that sense that all the organs are dropping away from the pelvic floor. It's a little easier maybe here for you to access the muscles here between your tailbone at the back, your pubic bone at the front, and sitting bone to sitting bone. It's a huge complex group of muscles, the so-called pelvic floor, multi-layered, 3 key layers here. I'm not going to focus overly on that today, but just suffice to say in this position, as I exhale, I could envisage that gathering from all directions. Sitting bone, tailbone, pubic bone, that gathering inwardly and upwardly. Right? Just feeling a sense that maybe you can find or gather there on the out breath. I really appreciate and enjoy release as you breathe in, while you let all that weight fall away from those muscles. And then you're just going to find a fold in one leg and let that foot find the ground. Or maybe I could just enjoy having a little stretch. That right leg, a little movement into the ankle. And just reaching away. Just enjoy finding that movement. That foot comes and finds the ground. Maybe I just want to explore a little stretch out. And then rolling through the ankles. Be as creative as you want to be. Right? Again, this practice is about just using the simplicity of a little bit of support at certain points. Right? And everything else is accidental. It's where your body because it wants to go. So now I'm just going to roll this bolster a little higher. I'm going to keep rolling till I feel that my tailbone is nice and free, that it can just hang over the end of that bolster. Right? So I come to find maybe a sweet spot around the back of my waistline. Again, it's different for us all. Right? You want to feel relatively comfortable there. And then we can hang out once again. I always enjoy just exploring, having the arms up behind me here, a little freeing up through the wrists, the ankles, and I'm happy to letting those arms rest. If there's any tension through your shoulders, arms here, again you could look for some support. That might be a little platform of height. I'm using the blanket there. I'm taking some natural pauses from talking when I hear a train, the end of my garden, and moving on by. And what's it like if you let one leg lengthen? I had a strong release here through the front of that left hip and into my belly, the digestive tract. And it may be you're happy to let both legs extend like so. They're quite a powerful stretch into the belly. So you always have the option to keep one leg folded. So here I'm just exploring that now, feeling that release through the front of the right hip into the belly. And I'm going to take a few moments with both legs extended. It always comes back to the breath. Really appreciate and enjoy that expansion on the inhalation. The release, the surrender on the out. Wonderfully long exhale. So remember, you don't have to have both legs extended, just exploring. And if you're happy to, you may want to then plant into the feet and see if you can maybe take the bolster a little higher and just going a little more up the dorsal spine, so to the back of the rib cage. Being a little more powerful now, the release here, which is good for me with a bit of a cold in the chest, so feels good to open up and release here. Whew, the lung area. Again, you might let your legs extend and there'll be a little more dropping then back into the pelvis. Quite powerful this. And where do your arms want to be? You might want to let them come a little lower here. I'm getting a little wriggle and let my pelvis actually rest on the ground. This gets quite strong through the neck. I'm coming more now to rest a little bit more into the top of the head. And again, if I can reach, I can't, but you could bring in a little padding there under the back of your head. If you're not comfortable with letting the chin maybe lift a bit more, I come right into the top of my head. And that feels good for me. But if needed, get some support under the back of the head. Just stay with legs bent. Okay, I'm going to bend my knees and those lovely folds. I'm just having a little wriggle around. It's quite powerful. Release. So I'm edging around, bringing in my wings. Bringing my hands to the back of the head so I can cup my head. Just supporting my neck. And then from here, I'm going to bring myself over onto my side. So at this point, you can just explore coming to lay on your side now. So you can see I'm just supporting my head with my folded arm. My knees are bent initially. I'm just feeling into that. We'll do both sides and you might well feel very different from one side to the other. I am always working with a little scoliosis within my spine. So one side feels much more pleasant, another more challenging. Okay, and I'm going to keep the lower leg bent, but begin to extend that top leg and then releasing my lower arm. Just resting the head on the upper arm and seeing if I'm happy to hang out here. So just bringing the whole right side of my body now a little more alive. And find that inner smile. Soften into what is. There's so many things that come to knock us off track so often during our days and the unpredictability of life. So finding space to move more slowly, more deeply, to really listen in is a gift. Okay, well, I'm going to transition now. You can again stay in these places, for as long as it's feeling good for you. I'm just coming over onto my front and feeling that bolster under my front ribs. Just hanging out there for a few moments. Just interesting to feel that support under the front ribs. Just letting my head hang out here. As in all fours, very powerful, just letting our head give its weight towards the earth. Okay, and then I'm going to make my way over onto the other side. Just roll that a little higher to make sure I don't disappear from view. So I Again, just finding that point of support. I might begin here, just taking a few moments to settle in. But in your own time, right, when you feel happy to, just enjoy, right, finding that connection to your left side now. And you can always keep the lower leg bent, right, but you might also want to let both legs extend and just really working on finding your balance here as well. You're so different on this side. Much harder for me to sense in. This is where the muscles are weaker on the left hand side of my spine. So it's quite a good practice for me and for anyone with maybe a little scoliosis. Okay, and I'm just going to make my way back onto my front. And again, I'm just going to play with the positioning of the bolster. It's coming back to here to let the head just drop its weight. And then it's up to you. So I feel my pubic bone begin to make contact, and just inviting my legs to reawaken. I feel the thighs wrapping back a little more live in the glutes. You can explore having toes tucked under or dropping through the front of the feet. And where that wants to go for you. Whether you find that a nice sensation, a little support under the ribs, or whether it's a hindrance. Quite nice actually, just to let my head go on a little journey of giving its weight to the earth here, and widening across the tops of my shoulders as I plant through the hands, and then just traveling, letting my gaze lead the way till I'm looking up, up, up. Just feeling that quite powerful stretch through the front of the throat. Okay, and again then I may just drop, surrender. So coming onto my hands, beginning to enjoy, just drawing up one knee, then the other. Am I happy to come and sit on those heels, and you can have support under those heels where you need. And just letting the bolster roll away, and just using that as support under my wrists, the hands, and how's that? And rolling up, quite nice, feeling the bolster can actually roll with me. So here we are in kneeling for a moment, and just going to take the bolster in front of me like so, and then just coming into all fours. So after resting on our backs, on our fronts, quite strong stretches, let's just allow the head to fall heavily here and just begin to move in whatever spontaneous way you want to move your body, but starting maybe with that pelvic area. So there's a sense of just allowing that tailbone to move, right? Bringing it forward to the side, back, and noticing the response within the pelvis, the tucking under of the tail, and then letting that tail really lift and wag, and feeling the sitting bones moving away from one another. Particularly for any of the newer mums out there, remember you can always come onto your knuckles, or you can have a little more support under the heel of your hands, etc. Right? So move that knee right out of the way. And support under those knees, right? And your mums with achy joints. So it's so lovely just to enjoy letting that whole pelvic area move, right? And roll. But then just bringing that awareness a little higher up the spine into the area of your rib cage. So you could take your hands maybe the width of the mat and find that fold in the middle of your arms, the elbows. And then we can just allow those ribs to drop and roll. Ooh. And helping me to unstick and roll into the shoulders as well. Just exploring the response within the neck, the head, right? As I shift and move through that upper body. So whatever's working for you, where do you need to go? What's your body calling out for? Maybe you need to stay more in the lower back area, the hips, and maybe there's some movement now coming into both areas. And we're not thinking about any correct way of moving, we're just enjoying, right? That simplicity of allowing our body to move and hopefully within rhythm to your breath. And just walking the hands back underneath, feeling that support from my hands and knees. And as you exhale, you may just enjoy finding that wonderful rolling up into your cat. Right? And as you inhale, relax your belly. Feel the weight on the front of the spine, drawing the waistline down as you discover your tail. As you allow the crown of the head to open, lengthening away to come up. So it's a nice softening and opening through the front of the throat without overly getting necky through here. Right. Keep an eye on that. And on the out breath, tailbone begins to tuck. We feel that whole core awakening, drawing navel a little closer to that spine. Inhaling. Keep a softness through the elbows as you move through. It's wonderful rolling through the spine. If we let the out breath lead that initial rolling up, as we find that gathering of the pelvic floor, of the gathering around the navel, and then that freedom. So whatever it feels like for you this morning. And then I'm just looking back at my toes, bringing the toes closer, taking my knees a little wider, and there I can just play shifting weight back and forth. Bring my bolster in, and as I settle my pelvis onto the heels, but of course using cushions, padding under those, on top of those heels, where you need. Or maybe some blocks or cushions between the feet. Right? It's not the easiest pose for you at this time. And I'm just bringing that bolster close enough so I can really rest my belly. And then lowering down through the front, my heart comes to rest. I can let my head rest to one side. Feels wonderfully at ease through the arms, right, as they can rest nicely onto the floor. And breathe. So tapping into the restorative quality of child. Such a beautiful pose to return to whenever you need a little space to rest deeply into and listen in. And so you might just be keeping an eye on your lower back, or what's going on through the neck or the tops of the shoulders. Remember to turn your head from time to time. You may feel like you want to cuddle your bolster, and that's fine too. Ah. You can feel almost pod-like, a seed within a pod. Chin maybe tucking in a little more.